Yes. Okay, excellent. I just hit the button to go next. Hi. I'm Meredith McFadden. I'm the Institutional Repository Librarian at Arkansas State University. We are over in the northeast corner. It is Go Red Wolves, not Woo Pig Suey. So, different. And today we will try to very quickly go over why does this matter, how to build a sitemap, designing readable URLs, and documentation, everybody's favorite part. So our instance of Digital Commons is called the Arch, the A-State Research and Creativity Hub, and it is named after this beautiful historic arch that is our library clock tower in the background. It was donated by the class of 1921, I want to say. A-State has been around since almost 120 years, and our institutional repository started 2 years ago. Yay! So I'm very fortunate that I am the first person in my position. I was hired to build and start and create this whole thing, and so I've been able to make a lot of decisions. I wasn't coming into what people had already done. I've been able to set it up from the ground floor, and that's been really fantastic. So one of the first things that we ran into, we had actually talked with someone else who already had a Digital Commons instance, and they kind of mentioned offhand about how, you know, the back end can get really cluttered if you get a lot of structures going, and how, you know, organization could be helpful. And I was like, well, yeah, I had several months where I started my job and we didn't even have a DC sandbox yet. And so I spent a lot of time attending webinars and reading anything I could find, and also maybe reading a few other books and scribbling on my giant whiteboard because I wanted to have a good plan going into what we were going to build. And one of the really important things is that I wanted this to be something that could apply to anything that we were going to add into the repository into the future, right? So that even if I leave at some point, someone else could see this formula and continue it, and it continues making a usable structure that people can follow. So if you have not already, get your app out. I have polls, so get your app out. Sorry. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So have you built a sitemap? Have you ever built a sitemap, either for your Digital Commons repository or anything else? Do you have a sitemap for your Digital Commons? Do you? And do I have to like click anything special, or is it just gonna go to the results? Will you? Okay, you'll show me the results. Cool. So you did, nope, we got lots of nopes. That's fine, I get it. I know. Oh, you did. Yeah, okay. So we have some people who did, yay, or that someone else did, yay. But a lot of you haven't, and that's okay. And especially if you have an older established repository, or if you came into an established repository, like that makes sense, right? These things were already laid in place. It's hard to change once a foundation is set. So I started drafting our own site. This is what I created for Arch. And I started thinking about, okay, when you get to the home page, where are we going to go? How are these structures going to be layered? How are we going to use the community function with the publications within them? How is all of this going to be laid out? And this was my initial idea. You can see the sorts of things that we were thinking about putting in initially. We had several kind of low-hanging fruit collections that were like, yes, we can get that in quickly. We can get that in quickly. This is already digitized. This is already ready to go. And so that's the core of what I built this sitemap around. And then I was also thinking about the URLs that are going to be going with this. And you can see that with like archives and special collections is ASC. University documents is ASU, that sort of thing. Now you may be wondering, how do you build a sitemap? And that's a great question. I just went into Canvas and built it because Canvas is amazing. You don't have to pay for anything like that. You could also just do it in Paint or in Word or on a whiteboard or on glue maps. I mean, there are specific tools for just about anything you want to do out there. But my big suggestion is to start thinking with your really broad categories, right? When you first get to the website, what are those 4 broad categories that you're looking at, and then go down from there. And one of the ways that you can help develop that is looking at your own university structure. How does your university website, how is that set up? How is your library webpage set up? What are the sorts of things that people are initially looking for? And then also really leaning into that digital commons nesting framework that we have, where you can have communities and sub-communities and then the publication structures within that. And you can see that's an example of like our, if you say click, see all collections, that's the kind of structure that I was thinking about, that tree structure. So we have our archives and special collections, and then within that, the discrete collections. If you get down to our schools and colleges, you have all of those there. We also wanted to try to have representation from all of our schools. And the other portion of that to think about is having readable URLs. So when people are looking at the actual URL for where they're going to, it's something that makes sense. And I wanted to kind of reinforce the breadcrumb structure in the URL itself. And then that also makes it so that the publications on the back end kind of aggregate together, right? A big thing for this is reuse existing acronyms that you have. All of your colleges and units and departments already have snazzy little acronyms or abbreviations that they already use that people will recognize. And that will build a nice URL template that you can then apply to all of your current structures and all future structures. And think about what your community itself is what they're going to recognize when you're creating those URLs, so that it makes sense to them that, yes, okay, this is where I will find theses and publications or whatnot. And then also I have this note, please, for just a brief second, put yourself in the mind of my 12-year-old son, or whatever 12-year-old that you know within your life, or go find a student worker or something and say, look at this URL. Does it look okay? Does it look weird? Did I truncate this in a way that suddenly looks like it's saying something that we don't want it to say? And you can see here with this example, it's kind of small, but we have, oh my gosh, I have like 20 years of theater production photographs. This is not all of them. This is only a very small portion. And so CLAC, everybody at our college knows CLAC is the College of Liberal Arts and Communication. And the THEA, that is the actual, like if you go to register for a class, theater classes are THEA. And then SPG is just Stage Production Gallery. And then from there, it is either the full name or a truncated name of the production itself. Okay, another poll, because polls are fun. So, anybody else use a URL template or a naming schema to kind of have that consistency throughout your, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yay. A lot of people do use one. Cool. Or you're going to start using one. That's great. I hope that this has been helpful for somebody. I've found that it's been really, really helpful because as we add more and more structures, when you're looking for that one specific one that you want to get into to do some work, it's really helpful to be able to be like, okay, I'm looking for ASU stuff, here it is. Now, the last thing here is going to be documentation, because if you're setting up all of this schema and you want people to use it in the future, or you want to be able to trust other people to use this who are around you, they have to know what the heck they're doing. Otherwise, it's not going to matter. So a sitemap is really helpful to show people that overall structure. If you have a style guide or a processing manual, that's really helpful. Even just writing it out, what that URL methodology is, that people can then plug in the different names. And that way, anyone after you can follow that path that you've already set. Thank you. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer. And go look at our digital commons, Arch.